A big hello and welcome. It's Kate from Zen Stitching, and I'm super excited that you're here with me today for another one of our Making Zen artist chats. So today I'm joining Victoria Martinez Azaro in the studio, and I'm super delighted that she's joining us for another one of our Making Zen retreats. Hello and welcome.
Thanks, Kate. Thank you so much for inviting me to this chat and to the summit. And it is my second time, so I'm very, very excited about that.
It is, and I'm so excited about it too because you are such a creative person and your avenues of exploration kind of vary and kind of are fluid in a sense because I know you first and foremost as an avid natural dyer. And you're also using your beautiful natural dyes to now create sustainable wardrobes. I'd love to hear a little bit about your creative journey and your processes.
Sure. So I'm actually a fashion designer with a university degree as a fashion designer. And I'm also a fine artist. And I started in the fashion industry when I was 18. My first job was as a fashion stylist, actually, back in Argentina, where I'm from. And then as a fashion designer, I went to do a postgraduate, just a 6 month course in London College of Fashion. And then I met my husband from New Zealand, and I ended up in New Zealand. So that's the introduction to what I'm going to say next, which I started working in New Zealand as a fashion merchandiser, in the fashion industry here. So that took me to many factories around the Asia Pacific region. And that was like late 90s. And that was the first time in which I witnessed what the fashion industry was doing, which, the toxic waste, the unethical labor practices, which people were not aware of that at that time. We're talking 97, 98. So that's kind of like what really sort of shocked me at the time and started my journey into researching sustainable ways at the time with natural dyeing. And I started so rather than working in the fashion industry, I shifted and I went into education. And I started my career as a fashion sustainability lecturer, which I've been doing for 20 years.
Wow.
So even though I started with natural dyeing, to apply to clothes, to apply for the fashion industry, which meant that the color had to be consistent, it had to be durable. So I had very high standards of what the results that I had to get for my students, which were training to be fashion designers in the industry. And that then morphed into eco printing. And of course, minimal waste sewing, because, what do you do with all the beautiful fabric that you print and you dye? So that's why, even though my online presence started me teaching natural dyeing, I already had 20 years of applying it to clothes and to wardrobes and teaching people how to do that.
It's totally fascinating to hear, and it's really interesting to hear your journey as a fashion designer. And because I know myself, and I'm probably a lot of other people, when they're little, that's what they aspire to do, is they want to grow up and be a fashion designer. And I know I used to design clothes for Barbie and my Cabbage Patch Kids and all that kind of stuff. And I never followed it through to a level where you are now. But I also, because of that, had no comprehension of the waste that's involved and the offcuts of material, even just bolts of fabric that no longer get used, and
That's right.
then all of the dyes and stuff that are going in and polluting the
Yeah.
landscape.
Yeah, and that is why. I mean, you make such interesting points, because the thing is, like, as craft people, right? You might hear all these things and then you might be, oh my God, I cannot even go and buy fabric because it comes from a mill that it's not sustainable. So I don't want people to never ever feel that paralyzing fear of contributing in that way, because I feel that if you start to have the joy and the skills to be able to make your own things, whether it's clothes for yourself, clothes, soft furnishings, quilts, whatever it might be, you're being part of the solution because you are going to be producing things that you love, that you treasure, that you're going to keep forever, that the people are going to keep forever, that they're going to be legacy pieces. So my message is that you can be sustainable in so many ways, and there's so many sustainable strategies within the fashion realm. I mean, you can use it, like you say, like dead stock fabric, which is like fabric that it will never be used. So, like you can repurpose it, and that could be beautiful, 100% natural silk that, the industry was going to check away. You can use it. That is super sustainable. You can use offcuts. You can use fabric scraps. I mean, we can be really sustainable in the way we sew and in the way we approach our sewing practice at home. So there's so many ways to contribute to, being eco and environmentally friendly with our sewing at home. It's really lovely.
That's so nice to hear, because quite often, everybody wants to do the right thing and reduce our waste and reduce our consumption, but sometimes it just feels like it's so overwhelming. Where do you start? What's right? And because there's so many layers within that, it's comforting to hear that you're saying that there's many various ways and easy ways to be mindful about the sustainability process.
Yeah, and I mean, not everyone wants to sew. Not everyone knows how to sew. So even thrifting clothes and redying them if you don't like the color, do you know what I mean? That is such a sustainable thing to do. Or grabbing an old t-shirt that is stained and eco-printing it on top so you give it like 5 more years. It doesn't always need to be sewing, and also it can be sewing from scratch. So it can take so many avenues. But I think that the GPS for me is like what really gives you joy whilst you're doing it and when you're looking at it. Because, I think that, I mean, and you will really relate to this, when you spend a lot of time and care creating something, you're going to love it because it has all that emotional aspect attached to it, right? But then you put in your wardrobe, and even just looking at it, if that gives you joy looking at it, you're not going to dispose of it, which means it's going to have such a special place in your heart and in your wardrobe. So that is such a sustainable thing to do in my book, You don't need, like, I don't want anyone getting afraid of it. It's just something that it's inclusive, and it's inclusive of many ways of doing it.
And that's so true. When we invest more of ourselves in the clothes that we make and the clothes that we wear, it's true, we really are invested in them as items too. And I know, speaking from experience, the clothes that I've mended, I'm reluctant to throw them out because they've been mended. And even if they're at the point where I don't want to wear them anymore, rather than throwing them out, I'm thinking of ways that I can incorporate them into other projects as well. So it's a quite interesting psychology. When we spend more time with our clothes, they want to spend more time with us, so to speak.
Yeah, that's lovely. And when you're saying that, the first thing that I'm thinking is like Liz Farr, who is part of the Creative Mama team. We always, when we are cutting a pattern, we're always minimal waste orientated. We're always thinking, oh, if we've got 3 centimeters here, 4 inches there, let's just chuck it in the compost, because that's going to decompose within a couple of months. That will be part of the compost that we put for our eco-printing plants. Do you know what I mean? So it just becomes such a holistic circular chain. So it doesn't, like you say, it doesn't always necessarily need to be used as a garment. It can be, cut off and put into something else, to the point that you can chuck it in the soil and use it as compost for the plants that you're growing to die, So,
Yes.
and you could even shred it, right? I mean, you could shred it and then use it as tape for your next, textural project or whatever.
There are many different uses that we can use with all of our bits and pieces if we're mindful of it. And I think half the time is just having that awareness that there's more opportunities for these fabric pieces to be used in some way, shape, or form, rather than just kind of thinking that they're going to go into the trash. I love the option of knowing that if something might not be maybe too small or might not be have the ability to be reused in another project, if it's made of natural fibers, it can go in the green bin or the compost, knowing that it can be returned to the soil and feed plants organically that way as well.
Yes, and once you really, I mean, all you need to know is, honestly, is either sew by hand, like running stitch, or know how to use the machine, sewing machine in a straight line. The possibilities are endless. You could use, little pieces to make like tags, little pleats, shirring, all sorts of fabric manipulation that can be attached in the pockets that we're going to be discussing today. Make a little brooch, make a little flower, make a little, something like a little detail in one of your garments. Make a little secret stash inside the inside layer of your pocket. Like really, the opportunities are endless. And it's just such a nice way of also repurposing clothes that we inherit. I love doing that, Kate. That's one of my favorite things. I've got, I don't know, quite a bit of my wardrobe with things that I've inherited from my grandmothers, from my grandfathers, from grand aunties, that because my family knows that I do that, they keep giving me all these items. And I do things with them, but they make me really happy. I don't know whether the rest of my family understands it, but it's just I collect all these things that my grandmothers wore for this wedding or for this anniversary, and they're quite timeless pieces, so I use them a lot.
In fact, that's something a good point that you touch upon, and that is timeless fashion. So having pieces of items in your wardrobe that can be worn, and they might be, what would you say to make them timeless? Would it be the cut or the fabric or both?
I think the cut is very important, especially, okay, I am in my 50s, so I am very aware of bodies changing. And when you have a cut that allows for organic shaping, which is not going to include many darts because the darts are static and you cannot move them. So rather than having darts to shape, maybe you have a tie that you can, like frame your, cinch your waist a little bit more, or lift a little bit of make something longer or shorter. So it's about finding creative opportunities for one item to last you 2-3 decades. Because maybe at one stage you're going to be wearing longer or shorter, or maybe if you're postpartum, you need it to be a little bit bigger, right? If you're post-menopause, you do probably need a little bit more waist around. So, all those things, whether you want the sleeves down or the sleeves up. So it's not so much about the fashions, it's about your body as well. What do we need as women to make this a timeless piece? Because the last couple of 3 or 4 months, we've been putting a lot of emphasis in showing people how to alter and resize and refit jeans. Jeans is a tricky one because we always want it to fit really nice, and be comfortable, right? But they're so tight on the body. So those things are a little bit more tricky, and we all know that altering something is more complicated than making it from scratch. So when I'm making something from scratch, I'm always going, like you say, for the cut. And my main thing is, how can these be one pattern, 10 different options, not only in terms of how we style it and put pockets and hems and things like that, but also how can it last a woman throughout 3 decades, like while she's having kids, after the kids, menopausing, when she's a grandma. That's totally possible. It's in the way we think about what we're doing before we do it.
Yes, yes. I think the other thing too there would be the quality of the material too. So if you're looking for a nice linen perhaps, or depending on what the garment is going to be, will dictate what kind of fabric, but getting the best quality material you can have so that it also will last the length or the lifetime of the garment.
Yeah, and my 2 favorite ones at the moment, I keep telling my friends, is go for, like you say, cotton, heavy cottons or linens, and apply the exact same patterns in a wool suiting fabric, because they're very noble materials. And one is going to give you like a beautiful drapey result, which you can combine with beautiful naturally dyed silks or something like that. And the linens and the cottons is going to give you a little bit more structure and heavy drape. So with one pattern, you can create two draping effects, totally different, which will define what you use those items for, which is really lovely.
Yeah. Oh, how fun. And what a great suggestion because I know my head automatically goes to linen as a nice material to work with, but I haven't really entertained the idea of wool, which is crazy because I'm a knitter and I love wool sweaters. So why not extend that to woven wool garments too?
Yes, so there's beautiful woven wools, and usually your clothing shops, your local shops, will have offcuts of. They usually would get them cheaper from those big mill factories that produce them for suiting. So it's very easy to find them, and you get beautiful pinstripe, dark wool suiting for. I just love it. And if you
Mm.
combine a beautiful dark blue, pinstripe blue, with a gorgeous yellow silk, it's just beautiful. I love it. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, you're making my mind race.
Possibilities are endless. Yeah, possibilities are
Absolutely.
endless. And the thing is, like, just work with really basic, nice, flattering patterns, and then get creative. Use them as a canvas for your creativity. That's what I like to do.
Oh, it's very inspiring hearing all of this. Now, for people who might not have access to a fabric store nearby that would have beautiful fabrics like what we're talking about, do you know of anywhere online that people might be able to go to if they were looking for a timeless piece of,
Of fabric,
yeah?
gosh, I wouldn't know internationally where to send people, but that's something that I should do some research on. I'll come back to you on that one.
Yeah, that would be wonderful because I know a lot of people would be very interested in, being in small towns. They don't quite often get the
Um,
access to the beautiful fabric stores that are in the larger towns. And so an online version would be, I think
yeah,
people would jump at the
yeah, that's a
chance.
good point, actually. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll definitely look into that.
that would be wonderful. And what a great idea. Like I never ever thought of working with wool suiting. So
Yes.
perhaps another option too for people is popping into the thrift store and seeing if there's any wool trousers or suits. Probably there would be men's ones, but there's no reason why they couldn't be altered to fit our shapes.
Yes, so going to a thrift store and going for those big plus size section, that's like gold for us sewers. And I'm sure you do that with denim jeans. I do that with jeans all the time. But you're totally right, because if you get a beautiful suiting pant that hasn't been tailored, there's no many, darts or anything, and that will give you, you just panel it and create your own fabric, and that will give you a lot of yardage to work with, for sure.
Oh my goodness. The mind is starting to race. Oh, so exciting. You know where I'm going first thing tomorrow.
I love it. I love it.
Absolutely. And so that kind of covers some of the fabric side of things. Now, you mentioned a moment ago that quite often you like working with, say, a crisp linen or a cotton, and then contrasting that with a more drapey wool, for example. Do you have patterns that you like to work with when you say you like to contrast between the two, or are they ones that you create yourself?
So we started creating our own patterns, and they're all minimally waist orientated. So, and timeless, they're inspired by this notion of timeless pieces. So they are when we started creating with Liz Farr, who is in the sustainable pattern maker in my team, we had three goals. One is that the pattern needed to look amazing in all of us. So that was the main thing, because we thought, I, like me myself, I'm not going to go out on the street and feel look good enough just for the sake of being sustainable. Like, I don't do that myself. So why would I expect anyone to do that? So and she agreed. She's in the same boat. So we have to look amazing, Victoria. She was like, we have to look amazing on them. Okay, so that was the first thing. The second thing is that we needed to waste as minimal waste of fabric around the fabric when we cutted it. And the third one was that we didn't want extra fabric on the body, because we both taught zero waste pattern making to our students for like 2 decades. And what happens when you do zero pattern making most of the time, and it's probably a generalization, but I think it's a fair one, you end up putting, not to waste fabric outside of the pattern, you end up putting it inside of the fabric, which ends up being with like, lots of pleats and things like that. And it's not usually super flattering to most people. If you're a model, it looks amazing on you and you're tall and you can pull it off. But usually for most of us, it's not. So we had those three sort of like part of our brief. And we came out with a beautiful kimono inspired. It's not a traditional kimono, but it was kimono inspired top, which our students have been using. And the results have been amazing, because they are using it as we proposed it. So they've been using it as a canvas to use all their fabric waste, all their fabric scraps. One lady even used antique Kanta fabric to create it, which the result was amazing, Kate. So it's the fabrics, the patterns that we're putting out in the world, and now we have a dress coming out, and we've got a top. This is one of the tops that it's coming out. And as you can see, it's all made out of bits and bobs that I had at home. So it's about, they're beautiful, they're flattering, they can be made, we are like, from small to 3 extra large. So we're very mindful that it has to be inclusive. But the idea is that you get to have fun with the fabrics. So this top looks quite nice and drapey, but like I said before, if you use a wool, it would look really drapey. But if you use like a stiff linen, it's not going to look the same. And it will, if you have big boobs, it's got, you're going to probably go for one fabric, and if you don't. So, they're very flexible. So when we think about the patterns that we want to work with, my go-to has always been, let's create canvas for people to have fun. And Liz, who does the actual patterns, she's like, okay, let's create canvas. That's all great, Victoria, but let's make them look amazing and feel great when they're wearing it. So I think that, if we can have those two together, then you are going to be creating items that you're not going to be wanting to get rid of them.
No, exactly. And if you have something that you feel comfortable in, and you feel $1 million whilst wearing it, that's a double win, isn't it? Because sometimes what you feel you look amazing in might not be that comfortable. So if you can get both in the same, that's awesome.
And that's the thing, right, Kate? Like when like I said, I'm in my 50s. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I'm done being uncomfortable. And we have these lives that we work and we have kids and we have commitments and da 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 da. So maybe in our working day, we have to be in 4 or 5 places in one day. We want to look amazing, but it needs to take us from one place to the other, represent our personality, and we need to be comfortable in the process, right? Otherwise it becomes hellish.
Yes, exactly. That's right. It's either, you don't want to sacrifice comfort for style, but you don't want to sacrifice style for comfort. So if you've got the both, it's a win-win situation.
Yeah. So that's what we're going for.
And I am so pleased to hear, because I have been admiring the top that you're wearing, that's one of your zero waste patterns.
It's coming out. Yes, it's coming out. I'll send it to you when it's ready, because you are going to make it look amazing. And I can already know how you're going to incorporate your beautiful embroidery. And yes, it's coming out very shortly. You'll get the preview of it.
Oh, I'm so excited. I particularly like the neckline on that. It's a very
so so this is, for example, this pattern comes with this neckline, which is this is a bias neck, which that's why it's in a different fabric, because it does take a little bit of fabric. But once you know how to use the waste from the bias fabric, it's a whole ecosystem. But anyway, so this particular pattern also comes with a with a facing. So you could have it like that, you know,
Oh.
or you can choose to use this little cowl neck. So going back to the sustainable piece, you use one pattern to create so many different variations. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Yes, it looks beautiful on, and I can imagine that it's very enjoyable to wear.
Oh my God, it's so comfortable. It's like, yeah. And this is like a very summery. I made it for summer, so it's like very light cotton.
Mm.
Um, but if you make it in a beautiful suiting fabric, I'm making one at the moment. It's a pinstripe suit and a beautiful golden rod dyed silk. So it's got like that blue and yellow going on, which I love. Yeah.
Oh, how striking. I could imagine that would look absolutely amazing. I look forward to seeing some pictures.
Yes, I will send you some, and I'll get you those patterns when they're ready to go.
Yay. That would be great. Well, I love it because like what you were saying earlier, when you put aside the time to make something special for your wardrobe, the enjoyment is, I was going to say it's twice, but it's more than that because you get the enjoyment of making it, and then you get the enjoyment of wearing it every time you wear it. And
Yeah.
if it's one of the pieces that you feel good in and it looks flattering on, then it's and you can wear it for, like you say, for the various hats and roles that we play throughout the day. That's an even better
Yeah.
scenario.
And then also you get like a third enjoyment, which is the designing enjoyment. Because when you are working with patterns or a concept in which you're empowered to use it as a canvas, then suddenly you become the artist of it. So it's not about buying a particular pattern and following certain instructions. It's you buy the pattern, but for you to incorporate you as a maker, which I think that's when the magic happens. Makes it
Yes.
so special. Mm.
Yes, exactly. And that's where it is really fun, isn't it? Because the pattern can be applied to so many different fabrics. And so
Yeah.
it really comes down to the individual's preference on what fabric you choose to use. Like you say, whether you choose to add additional stitching to it, so there's so many other
Yeah,
opportunities for
like
you to make it
can you
yours.
imagine like here if you do the facing option and then you added the whole facing is beautifully embroidered. Oh, I can just
Mm.
see it, Kate. You have to do that.
I know it does sound beautiful. I'm thinking about it too. Like, what patterns could I put?
Yeah, that would be amazing. Oh gosh, that would be so gorgeous. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And so for the Making Zen retreat, you're teaching us something for what we can do with if there are any scraps from any of the fabric projects that we're working on. I'd love to hear a little bit more about it.
Yes, so I'm very excited because I will be teaching how to make patch pockets, which is a type of pocket making using fabric scraps. So I've got a little example here. So this is one. So this is a front piece of a top that I'm making, and the fabric. It's two fabrics. This is naturally dyed with onion. This is all cotton, and this is eco printed. And this
Mm.
is a patch pocket that I'm adding, which is all made out of the scraps from the actual garment when it was cut. So that's the same fabric as that, as you can see. This is logwood. This is eucalyptus. This is um, onion modified with iron. But so I'm just creating this patch pocket here for to put in the front panel of this jacket. But
Mm.
um, so this is made out of fabric scraps from little naturally dyed pieces, and then obviously it's quilted. But this one, for example, this was made out of this patch pocket here. This is made out of jelly roll fabrics that I had left over. So this is in a kimono inspired top, and this has all, it's all done with, this is actually calico toile fabric.
Mm.
It's 100% calico fabric. Once
Lovely.
you dye your calico, it becomes much thicker, so it becomes like a really nice fabric to wear.
Mhm.
And yes, so I created this panel piece for one of the fronts.
Wow.
So to to balance it, I put a patch pocket here as well.
I love it. What have you used to dye that fabric with? Because those colors are just gorgeous.
This one.
Mm.
So this is like this one. So this is all from the same batch. So this is you're going to laugh. This is onion skins. And I think in the last retreat that I participated in, the Zen retreat, I think, oh no, it was eco printing socks, or was it onion dyeing? I can't remember.
I think it was eco printing, but
Eco
I
printing.
do have a soft spot for onion skins because they're
Onion.
such a humble vegetable, particularly when it comes to natural dyes.
I tell everyone now, that's my thing. If you think, because a lot of people think that it's very expensive, they don't have plants around them that they can use, it's the middle of winter. So I always say to them, if you know where your grocery store is, you have everything you need to dye naturally. So this is like humble calico cotton and onion skins, and look, it's amazing. So that is the
Beautiful.
onion skin, and this is, so first I dyed the cotton with onion, and then I went ahead and I did a modification with iron. So
Aha.
it's the same fabric, the same batch that went through an extra process.
Lovely.
Yeah, so that's what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing us the pockets that you're going to be teaching us. And when you're creating those, do you have a particular fabric that you like to use when creating those?
I always use a base of cotton, because we're using fabric scraps. We need to attach them to something. So I always use say that's cotton, but it can be any sort of cotton fabric that you have. Obviously, this can be done in any fabric. So I always say, if you're going to be using cotton scraps, use a cotton backing. If you're going to be using silk scraps, then depends of the weight of the silk. It's about the weight, not so much the quality.
Okay.
Obviously, I try to avoid synthetic fabrics as much as I can, because they're not the easiest to sew with. But that's when we start talking about the ecosystem in our sewing practice, because if you naturally are working with, linens and cottons and wools, you would have leftover fabrics of those kind of fabrics. So then patchworking and quilting, they become really easy. This is, for example, another example of hand-stitched little, the start of a pocket, and at the back is batting. So this is for more of like a quilting kind of jacket that I was making, and obviously I wanted to use a pocket that had to do with that kind of look.
Yeah,
So
it's beautiful.
so it is all about, but see, there's the batting here, but there's a piece of cotton in which I am actually attaching all these leftover pieces of silk. So this is acorn, eucalyptus, cochineal, madder root, leftover cochineal, jelly roll. So I always use what I have. This is, I was working this. I might use this one. This is avocado dyed silk, so I might be using this one for our workshop. I'm actually filming tomorrow, so I don't actually have the actual stuff. This is really nice. I was making some pockets the other day with this. This is actually this is calico, cotton calico, which has been eco printed using an iron blanket, and these are coreopsis flowers. So I thought that could be quite nice to use as a pocket as well.
That is so striking.
Yeah, so like going back to the canvas piece, I'm using my little pockets as little canvases to get creative and have fun, and then I'll just attach it wherever I can. I just attach a patch pocket.
I love it. Well, those pockets are such a lovely idea. You almost want to have like a jacket with lots of pockets
Lots
on
of
them.
pockets. Yeah, we should definitely do that, actually. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Or it kind of makes me think of, like the trench coats where people had opened them up with their big pockets full of different kind of things on the inside.
Yes, that will be, on the lining, right? In the
Yes.
lining. Yeah, we
Yeah.
should definitely do that. Yeah.
What a fun idea. Oh, I absolutely love it. Well, I'm super excited that you're part of Making Zen. I have
Thank you.
really enjoyed talking with you today and hearing all about your inspiration and where that's taken you on your journey of eco printing, sustainable pattern making, and how you're embodying it and sharing it with everyone. It's so beautiful to see that you're sharing your love and your passion with others, which has such a beautiful flow on effect as well.
Thanks, Kate. And I love what you do. Love what you do. I love how I see your work and I kind of see you. So I'm always very honored when you invite me to these retreats, and I can't wait to share the little workshops with the people. And I hope that it inspires them to get really creative. You don't need much stuff, just a few things, a little bit of structure, and then yeah, you can go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there. All you need are a few things, and whether it's doing some natural dyeing, like you say, you can just pop down to the supermarket if you don't have access to a garden, and some fabric scraps, and watch out, world.
And you're ready to go. And then you can also dye your own embroidery floors, your own embroidery threads. So yeah, it's not just the wool yarn or the fabrics. It's, you can also get super creative with your embroidery threads and stuff.
Yeah, you really can, can't you? It's just a matter of changing your perception to realize that you can pretty much dye anything that's within your reach. And I think once you get started and you understand the concepts of natural dyeing, you do want to dye everything that's within reach.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Nothing's
quite
safe.
addictive. It's quite addictive. And, at the beginning you say you're quite organic. And if I'm not going to show you what's surrounding me because it's a constant mess. Because I've got the natural dyeing shelves, the eco printing shelves, the sampling hanger, the patterns that are on the. There's never enough space.
Well, I'd love to see one day. So maybe next time we'll do a studio tour and you can take us all through your studio with all the
I will
different
tidy
piles.
up before we do that.
Oh, I don't know. I think the creative chaos is sometimes the most
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. Too
It's
much
not,
sometimes. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It's not what we want to present to the world, but it really is the most interesting because it's kind of like, when you go to a secondhand store or an antique store and it's kind of a bit jumbled. So you feel
Yes.
like you're making
Yeah.
discoveries, because
That's
they're like
true.
so
That
much.
is true. That's
Yeah.
such a good point. Yeah, you get all, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to find? Yeah, yeah, you're right, you're right. Okay,
Yeah.
fair, I get it. Fair enough.
Thank you for joining me in this creative journey. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And if you'd like to learn more about Making Zen, please check out the links below where you can find out all about the workshops and creativity, community, and all that kind of good stuff. Wishing you many happy hours of stitching.